Welcome back to Straight Facts on Tuesday. I'm joined by the brilliant LB, the wonderful Dan Potts. How are you both? You well?
Very well, mate.
Always good, man. Always good. How you doing, bro?
I'm in a really good mood today.
Buzzing. It must be. Must be buzzing, man.
Mate, I had a stinking cold the whole of last week. I was rough all weekend, but that win by Man United, and it wasn't just a win. It was a historic win. That game will be remembered in 100 years' time, and it was good to be on the right side of that, if that makes sense. So yeah, absolutely buzzing. And then young Kobbie Mainoo today, rightfully put into the England squad. And I'm going to throw out a very early shout on that, and I will get into it. Starting it now. I think England have got the best midfield in Europe now. They've added Kobbie Mainoo to that team with Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham and Phil Foden. I can't see another nation with a better overall midfield than us now. Stand by it. But yeah, really, really buzzing from my end, boys.
Yeah, no, listen, that's he deserved to be in the squad, right? He deserved to be in the squad, and I understood initially why he wasn't in the squad, because obviously he's not played too much for Man United. He's only played like 16 games or something like that. So to take him to the Euros is a bit early, but the facts are the facts. That position for England, we stink at it, and I'm pretty sure I speak for 99% of the people in the chat to say that we don't want to see Henderson in there no more. Like, we want to move on. We want to move past Jordan Henderson. I'm not saying Jordan Henderson's the worst footballer in the world, but like, we don't want to see him there no more, man. That guy ended his career. He decided to go Saudi. Now he's like back in Europe trying to beg to get back in. We don't want to see him there, man.
Mm-hmm.
So I understood initially why I didn't take him, but ultimately we needed him there because we've got no one else in that position that can play like Kobbie Mainoo. You know what I mean? Even Rice, if he was to play a bit deeper, isn't really the type of player that really we want to try and get. Say we get impressed and you need someone to dribble out of a tight space. Rice isn't really that type of guy. So, listen, it had to happen. It is a risk, of course, because he's still very young. But what other choice we had? Jordan Henderson. We don't want to see that, man.
I disagree. I understood the reasoning why he wasn't in the first team squad, but it just shouted that Southgate hasn't watched him. And then the weekend happened, and he absolutely balled out against one of the best teams in the world in Liverpool. There's loads of great consistency from him in the game, but some of the skills, some of the ways he got out of trouble, how press resistant this young man is. England need that, and I think it's right that even if just being involved in the squad this time round, there's a few things you want to do, in my opinion. One, you want to test what he's like at international level. You want to see what he's like in that international environment. You also want the idea of maybe giving him, and that's hard now because it's just friendlies, but a competitive game, because then it stops him from being it's harder for him to then go and play for somebody else because he does have dual nationalities. And we've got to try and this kid is very different from anything else that we have. He gives me Seedorf / Paul Scholes vibes, and we never, ever, because English football's so behind the curve, we never got the best out of Paul Scholes for England. We didn't play Paul Scholes in England team like Man United played him. It was we didn't do it with Michael Carrick either. Those two players that bossed midfield for a decade and 2 decades respectively in England and in Europe never got played in those positions for England, but yet England continued to fail those whole times. It was crazy because we always went for the star name or the guy that scores the screamers. And for me, yeah, I'm really happy. What about yourself, Dan? Do you think it's the right time for him, or maybe a little bit too early in his career?
No, I think it's great for the lad. He's probably one of the only positives that's come out of Man United in terms of players, I think, this season. He's one that you can look at and go, wow, this is at least something which is going well. I saw a lot of people online saying that it's a bit harsh on Ross Barkley because he's been phenomenal for Luton. But I think there's kind of different positions. They're
different
right.
players, isn't it?
Yeah, so I didn't really get that one, but and I think Ross Barkley's been really good, to be fair to him. But Kobbie Mainoo is definitely someone I look at as more of a kind of different player. I think Ross Barkley's definitely more forward thinking, but I think it's great for the lad. I really do, and he looks like he'll be a really good talent. I mean, I've been really impressed with him this season. There's not really been any times I've looked at him and thought, what's this all the hype about? Not too sure about this kid. Is he that great? I do look at him and think you've got a very good player there, and I actually do think that there's a future for him. But yeah, I saw that on Twitter, Ross Barkley robbed and stuff like this, and I thought, I don't know, maybe that's a bit mad for me. But there we go. That's the way I see it. I think Mainoo's been good, man.
Ross Barkley competing with Phil Foden and Bellingham for a position in the team. That's the area he plays. So he's not being rocked. If you think that, and that's the problem with football fans, they go midfielder and they put them all in the same category. You need a variety of midfield players, and I understand him, but he can't do what Kobe Mainoo does. He just can't do that. That isn't Ross Barkley's game. He is a lesser version of a Jude Bellingham, a lesser version of a Phil Foden. We have two of them in our squad already, and you've got James Maddison that I also think's better. It's not robbing him in any capacity. And you also have to look at things. Just because we want to win a tournament, you also have to think about the future. Managers always have to think about the future as well. And I remember Rio Ferdinand in 1996. He was included. It might be 1998. He was in the squad as a very young player, and it was more. He was like the last pick to come on if anything happened, but it was more a case of we know this man is going to be a star for England, so we want to kind of get him involved early, and I think it's important. Ward-Prowse robbed? Yeah, look, I think Ward-Prowse has been a player that's been overlooked by England for far too long, and he has got a deadly free kick and deadly set piece taker. But in terms of his ability on the ball, Mainoo's better. And what you need to do in these, I believe he needs game time in these friendlies, Mainoo, to see what he's like, just so the manager can make a really educated decision around, do I take him to the Euros in the summer or not? If we're in a game where we're winning and we need someone who can retain possession for us, I'm trusting now at 18 Mainoo over Jordan Henderson. I'm just am. I don't really want to be seeing Phil Foden's and Maddison's dropped into deeper positions. Even Jude Bellingham. Jude Bellingham can't hold the ball and control the tempo of a game deep to a top class level. That isn't their game. And I mean that with no disrespect. So, yeah, and that's not because he's a Man United player. I know some people will say, I think this kid is legit. And my only worry is that Man United don't improve as a club and we ruin him. That's my only worry about him.
That's actually not even banter. That's actually like deadly serious. You know what I mean? Like, you guys could ruin him. And it'll be interesting to see what Mainoo does. Is he going to sign a new long-term contract? How long is he going to stay there? Because United need to get this right. You've had a lot of talent come through there over the years, decent players, which, you've ruined. And the players obviously haven't helped themselves. If you look at sort of like Rashford, for example, I think we speak about this a lot, but this is a special talent. He's probably the only player in your whole squad that I would take at my football club, genuinely. So you got to get this right. And for an English point of view, you need to get this right, man, because we're desperate for someone in that midfield that can keep the ball and dribble out from the back and retain ball under pressure. So yeah, listen, it was he's probably been forced into it. It's a good point that you made as well about obviously dual nationality. What is it? Is it Ghana? I think my mate told me the other day. I think it is.
I think so. I haven't actually looked. I haven't actually gone and checked.
Yeah, so from a selfish point of view, we need to lock him off anyway. So we got to play him in a competitive game, so he can't change. So that's from a selfish point of view. So yeah, it was always going to
Ghana. Yeah, he's able to represent Ghana.
Is it Ghana? Yeah. Well, there you go then. So yeah, listen, we need it to happen, and I think we've got a serious chance of winning this tournament. And if we didn't have Gareth Southgate as our manager, I'd be coming out here with chest saying we're going to win it, because that team. If you look at that team, yeah, it's mint. Obviously, there's areas that you want to improve, but there's areas of every team that you want to improve. But it is a good team, and if we had a solid manager, then I'd be getting my chest out and saying, you know what, it's coming home. But with him, just can't get confident.
The only squad in Europe that I genuinely think is as good as ours overall is France. I'm not writing other nations. I'm not doing a Paul Merson with this whole "we should be winning it" type thing, but we should have a great chance of winning it, because the Italians are not. I know they won it 4 years ago or 3 years ago because of COVID, but they're not what they were. The Germans are not as formidable as they were. The Spanish, they're not Spain of 10, 15, 20 years ago. Portuguese are really good as an example. And then outside of that, you always get the people that talk about a dark horse here. I remember everyone telling me 4 years ago that Turkey were going to absolutely destroy the Euros. Didn't happen. We should be better than the majority of nations there due to the talent we have. But the way Southgate operates, he can get us sometimes to these semis and into these finals. But when it comes to that last hurdle, I just don't trust the man at all. I just don't.
That's fair. That is fair. Like, I'm the same as you. I don't think this manager. I think if with a better manager, we would have won at least a tournament by now. I really do. And our squad's actually better now with the likes of Bellingham, because he's literally only been at the last tournament. Phil Foden, who's hardly featured in the last couple of tournaments because of Southgate. Mate, we're talking about the players in the Premier League and outside of at the moment that are on fire, and they are all going to be playing together. Harry Kane is killing it over in the Bundesliga. Jude Bellingham is one of the best players in the world people are talking about at the moment for Real Madrid. You've got Phil Foden and Saka. People are having a debate who's better. Well, I'll tell you what, they're both going to be playing together at England. So for me, you know, Declan Rice, people are talking about having one of the players of the season and signings of the season, whatever you want to call it. They're all in an England shirt. He has literally got no excuses to say, I didn't because. What is the didn't because? You've got to go and do this, man, and deliver. And, you know, listen, we should be able to do it. I'm with you, Tar. I think France have got a really good chance, of course. But I look at England and I just think, nah, that first 11, man, that's some serious firepower. Serious.
And even when it comes to like our centre-backs, we all know that John Stones is amazing. Now, Maguire always gets laughed at. But internationally for England, there's an argument. I don't care how good or bad people think he is in the Prem. For England, in terms of his performances and what he's helped lead us to, I mean, he's been one of the most successful centre-backs we've had since 1966. He just has been. Whether people like it or not, England have been very good with him as part of their back line. So as much as I don't think our centre-backs have the name and the star power and star quality of the John Terrys and the Rios and the Sol Campbells, but as a collective unit, they've just done better. That we haven't actually been let down defensively in a lot of these tournaments. It's been the manager's lack of appetite to try and win, like in the Euros final. I know they missed penalties, but part of that is because they didn't touch the ball in the game. Why Saka and Rashford didn't get 15 minutes with their speed and skill to try and win it is crazy. Rashford was on fire at the World Cup. Him and Saka are doing bits. Comes on for the last 3 or 4 minutes of the game against France, nearly scores a free kick. You give him 20 minutes, 25 minutes, we could have stayed in that tournament. And those are the things that worry me about Southgate. And that's why the news today, I know that a lot of rivals think it's going to happen, that Southgate's coming to Man United, but it's trending everywhere. But just want to burst everybody's bubble a little bit with that. I know it's been posted by ESPN. I know it's been posted by the Daily Mail. But it's all been sourced from the Daily Star. So you can trust the Daily Star if you want. The Daily Star is like the Sun newspaper thinks that the Daily Star is trashy. Anyone who doesn't understand what that means. So the idea that we are going to go and get Gareth Southgate as our next manager, he might be on a list somewhere, there's no doubt, in case we can't get our top 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 targets. But I can't, and listen, I could get clipped up massively for saying this. I would be shocked beyond shocked if we sack Ten Hag and our next manager is Gareth Southgate. I'm not at this point going to start believing the Daily Star over every other publication in the world. I'm just not going to. I don't know about you boys, but I can't. The first seven pages of the Daily Star is naked women. I'm just not going to believe it right now, personally.
I'd like to believe it, because if it happens, that would be the funniest thing.
Yeah, it would.
I've ever witnessed in football history. Honestly, like the United fans would surely honestly, it'd just be hilarious, bro. Like the meltdowns would be unreal.
Yeah, was it you that asked me, LB, on a show a few weeks ago? It might have been Lawless, actually. That like, when am I going to start like buying kits and financially supporting the club again? I need to wait and see what their actual plan of action is. If something like Southgate happens, then I'm just full on back to where I was. Like, I'm not funding this nonsense because it's going to fail. I'm just not. So yeah,
This is why I've said like, Man United fans, some of them are like, let's see what happens. And some of them I've seen get really excited, like, oh, fuck, brilliant. Dan Ashworth, potentially, this Wilcox guy, Ratcliffe in. I'm really excited. Berardi, oh my God, this is going to be fantastic. Hang on a minute. If they go and point at Southgate, you will not be saying that. You will just not be saying that.
But then you look again, that's why I don't think Man United fans in our heart of hearts, I suppose quite a few today, like with messaging, texting. I'm like, are you worried about this news? And genuinely, the response privately, this has been, no, I'm not even, some Twitter people might be, but for me, it's like, I'm not even worried about it. I'm not really reacting to it. I just think it's absolute. I just can't. The only way I think it happens, so there's always a chance, would be if lots of people said, you know, like how Nuno ended up at Spurs, where like 13 people said no. If we had like 8 or 9 people say no, and that's all there was, then that's all there is. Like, fair enough. Still would be upset about it. But imagine he's the first guy you go to. Are you going to go for De Zerbi? Are you going to go for Inzaghi? Are you going to try and get Simeone? No. Southgate. Like, I can't. Whereas I saw one Man United fan called him today, and it just made me, it was a stupid joke, but it made me laugh. They call him North Door.
What the fuck?
I don't know why. It just tickled me. I just thought that's so stupid. But yeah, I don't think he'll come personally. I'm not right now. I'm not about to start believing the Daily Star on that news. Because equally rivals. The Daily Star a few weeks ago said that we've got a good chance of getting Mbappe. So if you're going to believe one, you've got to believe the other, right? That works.
You're a gooner now anyway, mate. What do you care?
I'm on loan. I'm on loan for the rest of the season.
Okay. You're only
in
on
the
loan,
Premier League. In the Premier League, that is. In the Premier League.
You'll stay on loan if you get Southgate.
Yeah, it'll be
You might
permanent.
ask for a permanent.
There's option to buy.
Well, I'm kind of on loan in the Champions League as well because I want a team to win it this year who hasn't won it before. And again, but that's all about Man United because I just don't want City getting 2 and being 1 behind us. I don't want any of the big boys getting like 5s, 6s, 7s, and 14s or whatever it may be and pulling further away from us. So you, PSG, or Ati, I think you're the only 3 in it that haven't won one. So yeah, one of you 3 winning it would be amazing because it's horrible, but it's not that horrible.
I'm amazed you would have Arsenal to win the Champions League title. I'm actually amazed by that.
I want one of the 3 teams who haven't won it. So I don't want you to win it first, but I look at everything from the perspective of what's best for my club. Not I can handle online shit and arrogant fans and teasing. It doesn't bother me. When I turn my computer off and I'm with my kids or with my family, I don't think about it. What I do think about is genuine things like 4 peats in the Premier League and City suddenly being the best team in the world with only 1 less Champions League than we have. That's a concern for me. Arsenal getting 1, it's like, okay, it's 1, but we've still got 3 times as many. So I'd rather Ati and PSG get it, but I want one of the teams that hasn't won it yet to win that trophy, to be fair. Although there is a really is the word sycophantic? I don't know if that's the right word for it. Part of me that would just love to see the media meltdown and certain football fans meltdown if Arsenal won the Premier League, Champions League double. Just to watch it, just to watch the annoyance unfold would be a rare thing of beauty.
People would actually go on long travelling holidays just to get away. If Arsenal did the unthinkable and won the Premier League and the Champions League or both, honestly, Twitter would actually shut down. I think it actually.
Well, you know what as well. We'd have to have a conversation about Arteta and Klopp. We would have to do that because if Liverpool have got the best goalkeeper in the world, one of the best right backs, the best centre back, the best right winger, and Arteta wins the same major honours, 1 Premier League and 1 Champions League, as Klopp did in 9 years. I don't think Liverpool fans would be ready for that debate and that nasty conversation. Because it would be.
I mean, we are getting ahead of ourselves here. I don't think it's going to happen, it'll be. But if it does, we can have that conversation.
Is it balls happen? You're going trophyless. You know you're going trophyless, don't you? You ain't winning shit, bro. This is all just made up little memes, bro. It's all fugazi. It's not real, man.
Yeah. It's like the what ifs moments, the what if moments. But, oh man.
I'm sad we just said that because Potsy had a big smile on his face when we were speaking about that.
Well, it's because it sounds beautiful, but I just then got hit reality and thought, actually, nah. Well, who am I kidding, man? This is. I know how this story ends, man. But
when you turn up at Bayern Munich and Bayern Munich absolutely batter you at the Allianz Arena,
nah, that's not gonna happen, man. That's not gonna happen.
We will be there. We will be there.
Let's see if you can get past Real Madrid, man. Don't be smiling too hard.
What are you talking about? We battered them last year, bro.
Yeah, it's a tough game, bro.
You won't know about that because you got beat in the Europa League of Sporting Lisbon, didn't you? You can hold that. You can hold that. Yeah.
That was the old Arsenal, man. That was the old Arsenal.
The old Arsenal. All right, whatever.
I didn't mean, by the way, sycophantic. I meant sadistic. I don't know why I had sycophantic in my mind.
I was wondering, is sycophantic a word? I mean,
it is. I think it is. I think a sycophant is a thing, but I was trying to work out what the word was and I got it wrong. And I'm sitting there going, "Ain't the bloody word." The whole time while you two were bantering, I'm worried about the word that I said. I just mean, when it comes to football, I don't mean it in real life, but when it comes to football, I enjoy seeing other people hurt when their team loses at times, or people hurt because a prediction hasn't come right, or a team they hate has won. So like, there's a little bit of a sort of sadistic part of me when it comes to football. I don't like seeing it in real life, if that makes sense. But yeah, interesting.
All you missed was LB. LB's a bit worried about Arsenal. Basically, that's what you're saying.
Oh, listen, everyone's scared of Arsenal. Everyone says they're not, but everyone wants to talking about them. So I had a City fan call me out there. Why did you do so much content on Arsenal? I said, because people keep lying about them. So stop lying about them and be fair, and you won't see me talk about them. It's as simple as that. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like all of last week on so many of our shows. Obviously, we did it on Tuesday, and Arsenal went through. The draw happened, and the amount of people, 8th best team left in it, 7th best team left in it, won't get through the next round. So they've achieved their objective in the Champions League this year, then, because they've got as far as they can go. No, it will be failure if they go out. Well, how can it be if they're like the worst team left in it? The logic just never makes sense.
Can't win.
So yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoy the to and fro in, but yeah, it's funny for me. But the draw's really, I'm really excited about the draw because I think it's the hardest route for City, and I know City often get labelled to get an easy route. So it's the hardest possible route for City. It's a ridiculously hard route for Arsenal. It really is. But it also opens up the possibility of not an easy final. But all the teams on the other side, you'd rather all of them in the final other than Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, or City from an Arsenal point of view, and probably the other way around as well, I suppose.
Yeah, no, it's listen, because we had the same draw last year. It was just reversed. Obviously, last year it was Bayern, Real Madrid. Now it's Real Madrid, probably Bayern, but it could be Arsenal, who knows. I tell you what, though, playing Atletico Madrid in the final on a one-off game, I wouldn't want to do that, man. You know what I mean? They're difficult. That would be a difficult one.
Absolute facts, man.
But at the end of the day, I say this all the time, yeah. When you're in this competition, you want to play the best teams. You don't want to win the Champions League, right? Like if Arsenal win the league this year, if Arsenal win the Champions League this year, no one can like chat to them because they would have beat Bayern Munich and then either Man City or Real Madrid or like whoever in the final. Yeah, you don't want to because you know what, Inter Milan, like Judge Moore gets it quite a lot. Like Inter Milan, people say, oh, they had an easy route to the final. Yeah, I can't remember the exact teams, but if you look at it, they didn't play like a Real Madrid.
Was that Porto, Benfica? Yeah,
it's like Porto, Benfica. It was like pretty easy. So if they won the Champions League, people would just get chat to them, wouldn't they? Be like, oh, you when you win it, like no one could chat to City last year. Like we beat Bayern, Real Madrid, and Inter Milan. Like no one could chat to us. So I kind of prefer this because then people could just have to hold it and just be like, you know what, fair dues, like you actually deserve it.
Yeah,
plus, like especially for Arsenal, like they've not been in the Champions League for a while. Do you again? You want to play the best teams, right? And Bayern Munich, they're not the greatest this year. They're really not. That's going to be tough playing at the Allianz away second leg. That's going to be super tricky, and it's gonna you're gonna have to not bottle it there. But you've got a good chance of beating them because they're not that great.
But I look at it from City's point of view. You are better than both Real Madrid and Bayern, in my opinion. But Bayern have Kane this year, and I feel like the game at the Allianz last season, if they had a world-class prolific striker, it could have been a very different game because they had a lot of opportunities to score. Plus, you're conceding more counter-attacks this year than normal. And Real Madrid have kind of added some extra pace to their team. They've got the Jude Bellingham factor, and I felt last year they just lacked speed against you, and they lacked that kind of dynamism that he's brought in. So I still think you're better, but if you beat Madrid and then you get Bayern Munich, it's just a slightly different test than last year, which I think is obviously very, it's good. I as a not wanting you to win gives me a bit more hope you'll lose, but equally as a football fan, it makes it really interesting because obviously I don't want you guys winning it because look, you do back-to-back. I mean, there's talk of a back-to-back treble. I mean, just do back-to-back Champions League off the back of a treble, and this City team starts to move into the realms of one of the greatest football teams in European history. And like I say, I'm looking at this through the lens of a Man United fan. I don't want that because why do you want a rival to have a team that could be classed as the best ever? You guys do back-to-back trebles, and I think you surpass every other team ever in Europe. No one's ever done it.
4P at the same time.
Yeah, whilst doing a 4P, and suddenly you move into that realms of untouchables in terms of debate because it's just the magnitude of trophies, the likelihood of going back-to-back in 3 of the same tournaments. I know Real Madrid went 3 years on the bounce, but they sometimes did that without winning anything else in that particular season. So Carl here says not invincible though, but yeah, you take that over it. So I just want City out of everything. I really want them out of everything just because it's not even like a dig at City. It's purely around self-preservation as a rival club.
I hear what you said about Jude Bellingham because one of Real Madrid's problems, and you sort of highlighted it there last year, was that they were just far too slow, and we managed to play around them. The only thing that I would say about Real Madrid this year is I feel that the lack of an out-and-out striker will end up hurting them in and I do feel that in the Champions League you do really need that. So I still think we'll beat them this year. I think we'll get through that game. I think next year, if they get Mbappe, which is likely, then that could be a different conversation. And Bayern Munich, again, I just feel that even though, yes, you're right, they have Kane. I don't know. Every time I've watched them this year, I've not seen them play well, man. I really think they're an average team. And of course, they do have some good players and they can hurt you with Kane and that. But we also have players that can hurt them. You know, that Upamecano, yeah, oh my God, he's absolutely shocking. He is shambolic. The midfield, a bit slow, a bit old school. I feel like we could potentially do it there. But at the same time, it's not this competition. You know this. You've won it a few times. This competition isn't necessarily about who's the best team. It's about experience. It's about a bit of luck. You need a little bit of luck as well. So, yeah,
three times. We won it. Three times. Yeah, three.
Yeah, a few times. You won it a few times.
Three times. How about yourself, Dan?
Yeah, what were you saying?
Yeah, it's different. It's not. Yeah, I want my team to get back ready to that level, but no, I've got horrible feelings that you can do a three-peat this year. It's just there in the back of my mind, and it won't go away. And a few City fans in the comments, and Terry's got an agenda against City. Yeah, I do. I have an agenda of not wanting you to become the greatest team in the history of European football. Why is that so weird? Why is that weird? I don't mean it rudely to City fans. How can you expect a Man United fan to want City to have the greatest? By the way, Arsenal right now, I praise them for how good they are. If they suddenly start winning Prem, champs, I'm not going to want them to do it either because it will surpass things my club has done. It's honestly, it's like the year when Leicester were trying to win the league. Everyone who wasn't in the title race wanted Leicester to win it because it meant a rival didn't. I just don't understand why people think it's a weird agenda. I think it's very normal. Do you know what I mean? It's like not wanting my kids to put their fingers in the plug socket. It's just shouldn't shock anyone. I think it really.
What's mad though is that people are saying that City ain't the same City. They're favourites to do a treble again this year. Like, let's be real. They're favourites to do a treble. It's absolutely mad. Imagine that.
I would say that, but Dan, I would say that Lewis, we haven't had Nobbins on for a while, but both LB and Nobbins have both said consistently on the terrace this year that City aren't quite the same as last year. There are some mistakes. There are a few holes. Doesn't mean they're not a brilliant team, but I do think they're just slightly, I mean, you're talking minuscule, not quite as good as last year. And I suppose that's the doors that slightly ajar and someone got to burst through it.
That's what I'm saying.
I get that. I get that.
That's how mad it is. They're not great. They're not that great this year. But why are they still favourites to do the treble then? That's how mad it is. They're not even playing great, apparently. I mean, I wouldn't go that far personally. I mean, I don't look at Man City and go, "Oh, I don't really see what all the hype is about." But I do think, and they're still favourites to win this treble. If they win this treble, they will go down as the best. They will go down as best ever. Yeah, how can you not doing 2 trebles in a row? That's just mad, man. It's absolutely mad. There's a debate at the moment who's better, 99 treble winners or last year's treble winners. You can have that debate all day. They do it 2 in a row. You're saying this is the best. This is the best team you've seen. This is just.
No, you are. But it goes beyond. You could argue it. I mean, it goes beyond what Barca did. The great Bayern teams, the great Real Madrid teams. I know Madrid in the 50s won it like 4 or 5 times on the bounce, but it's a very different world back then. And yeah, it'd be all right. I know City fans like keeping quiet about it, didn't you, LB? It's a bit like talking about Voldemort. You know, just don't quite say it.
It's one of them. I don't mind speaking about it. It's just like I'm a little bit surprised based off how we've played this season that we're even in this position in the first place. Because we've not even played well. I'm a point behind the Premier League leaders. I'm in the semi-finals of the FA Cup. And I've reached the quarterfinals of the Champions League. And genuinely, my team's not even played that well this year. Like we are, I think, miles away from our best ability. Whereas I think with Arsenal, you've kind of seen they might have a little bit more to squeeze out, but you've kind of seen in the last month or two, Arsenal at the best, yeah, smashing 6 past teams. I just feel like City, you're just not. Now, by the way, there's no guarantee that we'll see. Maybe we could drop off. We could get even worse. But I'm hoping that when we get back from this international break, we will start to see City. You know, and Rodri's been speaking about it, saying you are going to see the real City when we're back from the international break. I'm hoping that we click into gear. But it's just a weird feeling. And of course, winning a treble is incredibly difficult. It's incredibly difficult. So for me to sit here and say, "Oh yeah, we're definitely going to do it," it would be a bit arrogant, to be honest with you. But we've got a chance. We've got a chance. We definitely need to improve. We can't be playing like we played against Liverpool, against Real Madrid. Yeah, see you later. We'll be out of the competition. But we'll see in it. We'll have to wait and find out how we get on. It's up to the players, man. We have the team to do it, but will we put in the performances to do it? Also, will Pep keep on playing Alvarez in weird positions?
Well, it's like Chelsea in the semi-finals of the FA Cup. Like Chelsea haven't had a great year, but they've actually put in 2 decent performances against Chelsea as an example. And I think that look, they've got a chance of beating you if those similar mistakes are made. They've got. I mean, not if Raheem Sterling's taking free kicks or penalties, they won't. But what a mare he had on site. I didn't watch the game. I was at my dance with Dalton, but I watched the extended highlights last night. I couldn't believe how bad he was. I saw it all trending. Didn't know what happened. Then I watched when they do extended highlights in about 30 minutes, you see some really good bits of play. He was so bad. It was crazy, but. Yeah, it's going to be amazing. It's why I'm rooting for everyone that's against City this year. It's not personal. It's purely because I don't want that history being created, man. It's similar with Liverpool. I don't want Klopp going out with more trophies. Do you know what I mean? Because I love how they still try and call this the Pep Klopp era when it isn't. It's the Pep era. And if he was to walk away this year, if he'd have walked away this year with 4 trophies, that changes the tale a little bit. But if he leaves with just that Carabao Cup, it's a good trophy, but that's 5 trophies he's won within sort of Europe and the English remit in like 8 years. It's good, but it isn't astronomical. You know what I mean? It's achievable by most top teams if you get a good manager and a good team together. So, yeah, look, my agenda is purely fueled by what I want, what's best for my club. But if people think that City can do another treble, I know a lot of you are spamming 115. I mean, I don't know what that means at this point. You got to let them have their trial, as I've said many, 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 many times before. Speaking of trials, Forest have been deducted 4 points, and they're kicking off about it, which I find weird. I do find it weird. They're saying the same thing as Everton. We didn't get a sporting advantage over it. They did, actually, because they turned down a £32 million bid for Brennan Johnson in January because they believed they could get more from him in the summer, and his goals in the second half of the season helped keep them up. And if they'd have sold him for 32 million in January, they wouldn't have breached, but they stayed in the Premier League, meaning they got a sporting advantage out of it. They got their 4-point deduction. Of course, I'm sure LB, you've seen people, where's Man City? Where's Man City?
What about Man City? It's hilarious. For people, I gotta say, for a club that no one cares about, yeah, we don't have trend a lot on Twitter. Fucking hell, people love to spark that. I just see all the 115s in the chat. Apparently, no one cares about us, but that's all everyone does, speak about us all the time. No, listen, I think if I was a Forest fan, I'd be really torn at this because yes, you broke the rules, and obviously based off of the fact that Everton broke the rules, you're going to get a points deduction. But Forest last year only just survived. They only just survived by 4 points. Now, it kind of stinks of like, well, what do you want them to do then? Because if they didn't spend maybe that 30 million quid or whatever it was that they breached by, maybe they would have got relegated. And then it's almost a case of, well, we can't. And this is actually what Forest said in their sort of submission. It's almost as if like, well, how are we meant to compete? Because we spent all this money, we apparently breached the rules, and we only just survived. So if you're telling us we only just survived and we breached the rules, then how is any promoted club gonna be able to survive? So a little bit frustrated on that point. Yes, obviously they potentially could have sold Brennan Johnson a little bit earlier. I really like reading. People should really read the documents, man, because it's fascinating. Atletico Madrid bid for him. Brennan Johnson, Man City apparently held talks with him over Brennan Johnson. I was reading that yesterday. I was like,
the best bit about the documents is they try and make him sound anonymous by calling him Player A.
Yeah.
Then they say what club he signed for in the summer. So just say his bloody name.
It's so crazy. I was reading it. I was like, if my club would have signed Brennan Johnson, I would have flipped, bro. Why is my club like? So it's really good. It's for people who've not read the document. You should really read it. It's really interesting. But yeah, listen, it's just one of those for Forest. Like, it's a tough one to take. It could relegate them. I think it also makes Burnley very happy because they're obviously now they've got a chance of surviving, and even Sheffield United. I mean, they're probably still gone, but like they've still got a chance. So for footballing, for us as fans, it's pretty good because it makes the relegation battle.
Luton have been pushed up out of it, and one thing I would say though is Forest. I said this: they signed. it's all about mismanagement. So they had to sign a lot of players in last summer because a lot of people left for nothing. And they had a lot of holes in their squad and they spent so much. But they also did stupid things like what they did with Jesse Lingard. They paid him an exorbitant amount of money to be there for a year and he didn't really play or hit the ground running. I think they spent, I mean, if they breached, so they did. I think they spent too much money. I think they would have been better off buying better quality players for less money and then seeing where they were. I actually think the amount of players they purchased stopped them from actually starting the season well because they were so. It took them until about January to really sort of find themselves. I swear they signed about 15 to 20 players.
Okay, so I can. So let's see if we can agree, right? I accept that what you've said there is fine, but ultimately, when you're making a decision like about how you approach a transfer window, you've got a strategy. Now, your strategy there is a sound argument. That is a strategy that they could have gone with. They went for another strategy. Now, ultimately, you have to say that strategy paid off because they survived. So, the bit that I have sympathy with them is that they only just survived, Terry, by 4 points, and now they're being told, "Oh, you spent too much money, mate." And it's do you not see it from their point of view where it's almost as if like, well, how are we meant to compete then? If we spent all this money, you're telling us we spent too much money and we only just survived. We might as well just get relegated straight away.
So I don't think it's about the total amount of money. I think it's about the volume of players that they signed. And I know some of that was forced upon them because of people leaving and contract ending, but that's also about your planning, planning ahead. This is not drafts, it's chess in that way. At the same time, though, I view it, and I totally get where you're coming from and I get the argument. But listening to Brighton's one of the chief executives speak a few months ago, where he just said, to take it down to its nth degree, we can't be advocating for clubs to lose even more money because let's just turn around and paint the other picture. All right, you can lose rather than, I think it's 30 million, but let's just say you can lose 130 million, 200 million, and then a club breaches that by having a strategy that doesn't work. And then they go down, and even after the parachute payments, because of all the wage bills, they're in trouble, and then they end up in non-league in 3 or 4 years' time. That's far more dangerous than telling clubs when you come up, you've still got to live within your means. You may go down, but you get a year of Premier League money, you get parachute money, keep using that to build your club up. And you might find that before you can ever start thinking about mid-table finishes and European finishes, you might have to go up and down a couple of times first to build up the overarching revenue. As we looked at the other day, City's wages now, and you guys were a small club 15 years ago comparatively to now. Your wage bill is £490 million a year. About £40 million of that is staff, as in like general day-to-day staff. The rest of it is players. But that's more than the team that are 19th in Europe for income. They're in 19th in Europe for income. Your wages are higher than them. But that's over 15 years. And again, you've had big sponsors that have come. I know there's some question marks over it, but we'll sit in the world of it's all above board for a minute for the sake of argument. You've had to build that up. Now, you're able to do it quicker because you're owners of a certain level. Like, Nottingham Forest got a really rich owner, but you've just got to do it over time. You can't, because of the rules now, you can't just go hell for leather year one and then not expect a problem. Equally, Everton fans, they keep going, oh, but we lost less money. We didn't. It's like Everton fans are ignoring the one thing in the documents is why Forest got punished less. Because the good thing about Forest is they cooperated. They gave him documents where Everton didn't cooperate and they were giving him documents that were incorrect. It's like in any walk of life when you're in trouble. If you cooperate, you get in less trouble. That's pretty typical
the only thing,
life.
That's fair. However, I seen a good point by an Everton fan yesterday. It is a fair point. Would Forest have cooperated to this degree had the initial Everton points deduction had been made? Were Everton made an example of, therefore taking a big hit, and now everyone's just gone, oh, we'll cooperate now because now we'll get points.
That is a great point, but it's almost a chicken and egg almost. I agree. It's a good point, but we won't know. But someone said to me a minute ago, why are you defending City, Terry? Well, because I said it before and I'll say it again. What Forest and Everton, and there is somebody else who's going through this. We're going to talk Chelsea in a minute. It's not the same thing as City's. So I can't stand this. Well, how come City haven't been done yet like everybody else? City have not been charged with breaching the limit of money they can lose. Their accusations are so different. It's unbelievable. We know what's happening with it. It's got to stop being mentioned in the same breath as these. What you do see, though, is if Everton got an extra 6 points deducted through not cooperating, the fact that so many of City's charges are not cooperating, if they are found guilty, the points deduction's got teeth to be absolutely massive. Which, yeah, none of us will laugh at if you're guilty. I promise you, none of us will do that, LB. It was there. But I wanted to play a snippet here because Chelsea fans, I had a few online tell me they're in no trouble with FFP or anything. There's a snippet here from TalkSport today where Simon Jordan and a football finance expert are discussing the big £200 million hole at Chelsea. I want to discuss this and what you guys think Chelsea are going to have to do in the future, because it doesn't sound good to me, but I want to get your opinion and, of course, the viewers as well. Let's take a listen.
What is going on with Chelsea at the moment? Now, I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 messages who basically are saying, Chelsea fans, there's Terry, there's John, there's Graham, we're all Chelsea fans. Where are Chelsea in this conversation right now, Stefan? Where are they right now? What's going on with Chelsea?
Well, we know for certain that they didn't breach 22-23, because if they had breached 22-23,
they'd been charged.
They'd have been charged, and we'd have been sat here either after the Chelsea Independent Commission or waiting for it to occur. So we know they got through 22-23, and in fairness to them, in that year, it was a Champions League year, and their revenue, we now know, was £512 million. So we know that actually they had a relatively good year from a top-line perspective, and that's all well and good. And we know all of this because, well, there's now a number of sources, because, of course, none of the clubs who, or not none of them, but almost all of the clubs that have a year end of 30th of June 2023, almost all of them are waiting until the final possible day to release their accounts into the public domain, even though we know for certain that they were all signed off well in advance of the 31st of December. And we know that because they had to file them with the Premier League, of course. So they're all sat on these accounts. We don't know what they say, but we do know through various sources what some of the key numbers are. And in terms of Chelsea, we know that they made a £90 million loss for for the year to June 2023. Now, that occurred after they made a profit on disposal of player registrations and fixed assets of 142 million. Now, that means that clearly when you add those two things together, their losses, their operating losses, were absolutely enormous. They were over £230 million. Now, we were not aware that they would make as much as £142 million of profit in the last season. The number that was in the general, in the sort of public domain, when people did the maths and added up who they sold, was nearer 100 million. And there was an assumption that Mason Mount, because he was announced on Manchester United's website on the 1st of July, had been put into this current season. So the £55 million of profit was in this season. It now transpires that Mason Mount appears to have been transacted in 22-23. And that is how they got through 22-23.
Which means they've now got a £55 million bigger hole this season.
Correct. Because we also know from the Blueco accounts that they are currently, from the post-balance sheet events, that they are currently something like £48 million in profit for this year. But of course, this year, from an operating perspective, is going to be even worse than last year.
Because they've got no Champions League.
Because they've got no Champions League.
Right.
And, well, they've got no Europe at all. So we know that straight away...
Two big cup runs, though.
Yeah, but of course you pay away 45% of that revenue for all of those games.
Sure.
So
how do Chelsea deal with this? They've got to sell.
It will make no difference at all to Chelsea's FFP and PSR position if they sell players like Kepa and Lukaku, because they don't make any profit on those players, even if, which we expect, their book values have been written down substantially since purchase. So really, they have to find buyers for Chalobah for 20 million quid, for Brozier for 40 million quid, for Gallagher for 50 million quid. It's those sorts of deals that need to be done. And by the way, they all need to be done before 30th of June. And that, as we know, because it's actually articulated within the Forest decision. There's a whole conversation about how hard it is to sell players in the period before June. The Premier League actually suggested more or less that it was impossible and got a slight
What
rebuke.
Stefan is basically saying, in the shortest of terms, it's absolutely inconceivable that by December of next year, Chelsea won't be facing a charge from the Premier League for breaching financial fair play unless there's a complete sea change in the rules and a complete rowing back from the perspective. If you're looking at Chelsea's numbers, unless they're going to go and sell somewhere in the region of £200 million worth of players that have a low cost base on them, so the players that you would think they're going to least likely to sell, then Chelsea are going to be in the situation that Nottingham Forest and Everton have been in.
Doesn't sound good. I mean, and again, there are
That's
some
great.
assumptions in
It's
here.
brilliant.
I mean, there's no accusations of I mean, this doesn't include the elements of historic, quote unquote, financial mismanagement and potential cheating that they've reported themselves for. This is a completely separate thing. But according to all the documents that are now out, and obviously, normally the trading accounts run like May till May, but they've all been submitted early now, but they won't be shown until the end of the season. So nobody has any idea what's going to happen. But looking at the current trading accounts, the turnover they have, no European football, the fact that Mason Mount went into last season's accounts to make sure they didn't breach and not this year's, they're in trouble. And I know there was a few Chelsea fans in the comments during that time, but we have to sell £100 million worth of players. Listen to what Stefan said there. The Premier League got a bit of a slap on the wrist in that report for saying that it's nearly impossible to sell players before the end of June. And this is where rivals are going to sit there and go, hang on a minute. I'm not going to give you 40 for Broja. I'm not giving you 25 million for Chalobah. I'm not giving you 50 million for Conor Gallagher now. I'm waiting until July because then they're cheaper. Or I'll sell him. We'll buy him now, but we ain't paying 50. We'll give you 30 million for him. I don't understand why rivals are going to help them. Maybe they will, but I think Chelsea fans, I understand this could end up being okay. It could. But I think Chelsea fans have got to wake up and smell the coffee. And I've got a big question for them. How the hell, because a lot of them have got faith in this. How have you got faith in Todd Bowley and co after what they've done in their first 18 months? It's madness. It's strange to me.
Absolute madness.
I just want to quickly say, this team spent £1 billion, right, in 18 months. And at the time, everyone was saying, this is weird. You know what I mean? This is weird. If you actually listen to what they're saying, because people like to think that like these guys don't know what they're talking about. Simon Jordan ran a football club. Yeah. Now I know he went bankrupt or whatever, and like it all went tits up, but like in fact, he knows what he's talking about. And Stefan, he knows what he's talking about as well. So let's just talk about the fact that they know what they're talking about. If you actually listen to what they just said, they effectively said that Chelsea only just made it through these accounts, right? These accounts also included Champions League revenue, which isn't going to be in there next year. And it also included the sale of Mason Mount. So these guys are going to have to sell a lot of players. And like Simon just said, it's looking pretty impossible for Chelsea to come out of this safe unless they sell a load of players. And by the way, again, they have to sell players that they make a profit on, basically academy players, for it to work. And I seen something that was floating around social media yesterday. I think it's Stefan actually put it on. In the Nottingham Forest report, the guys, the independent commission wrote this. Let me read this out to you. This is in the report. And ask yourself, why did they write this in the Nottingham Forest report when it's not really relevant? I think they're letting people know what's about to happen. And maybe before anyone says, maybe it's about my club, I'm just going to put it out there so we can have an honest conversation about it. This is what they said. Where a PSR breach, profit sustainability rules, is minor, then it will be for the other commissions to determine if any points deduction is necessary, appropriate, or proportionate. But if the breach is properly described as major, then it may be the case that even a very severe sanction, such as expulsion, is more appropriate. And this is coming out again. I think genuinely, Chelsea could be in serious trouble here. I think they could be in serious trouble. And I love how people in the chat go, LB, City this, City that. I literally never deny it. City are in trouble as well if City are found guilty. City are in this conversation as well. So I'm just saying it because we're just having an honest conversation on the channel that I think Chelsea are in serious trouble. And I think we know they're in serious trouble because they forced the Mason Mount thing in last year's accounts when everybody in the industry, when you listen to these people speak, thought Mason Mount was going to be in this year's accounts. It was in last year's. That tells me they panicked and they had to force it through real quick.
Mate, honestly, madness. What we're listening to, like absolute crazy, and I'm here for it. I'm here for it. 2 decades they've had their fun. They're finished, mate. Absolutely finished. It's an embarrassment of a club right now. It's being run like a circus. And if all of that stuff, what they're saying there is true, like LB says, these aren't guys that have got opinions. These are guys who actually have some facts and figures in front of them. No, I don't have, right? That was really interesting and insightful to me. That is basically saying, go and sell some crap players for 5 times the amount they're worth, or you're basically in the doo-doo. Class. I'm here for it. They ain't getting 40 million for Broya. They're getting he's on loan to Fulham, the guy. He can't even get in the team. They're not getting 50 or 60 million for Conor Gallagher. He's had a good season. 60 million for him. No, thank you. And who's the other one? Chalobah. Who's paying money for him? This is brilliant. Honestly, unbelievably good to see. And their fan base will have been the most cocky and arrogant for the best part of 2 decades. And there's a lot of fans, that are real Chelsea fans that know this ain't proper Chelsea for me. This ain't the way I want it. This isn't that. This isn't what I want to be seeing. There's a lot of Chelsea fans. Nah, I'm not worried. I'm not worried. They're in the chat now. I'm not worried. I'm not worried at all. Why are you not worried? You've got a shocking owner who has got no clue what he's doing. That has just wasted £1 billion. That is the actual case study of how not to run a football club, and you're not worried. Cool. Keep him. Do you know what? I hope he stays forever because he's doing a wonderful job. And so's your manager.
This is the thing. A few weeks ago, they were talking about being £100 million they had to raise. There's now talk, again, with more information coming out, more facts coming out, that it's nearer to 200 million. And I know they have new shirt deals and everything else, but they can have no European football again in any... Well, they might win the FA Cup. And again, that's massive for them now, because although it would only be the Is it the Europa League or the Conference League with the FA Cup? Must be the Europa League. Europa.
Yeah.
It's still worth something. But the problem is, it isn't like Champions League money. So the Europa League will be like FA Cup and League Cup games. Around 45% of whatever you make goes because of the cost of hosting games, traveling your squad out, and everything else. So whatever you're making in terms of income from the Europa League, you take 45% of that off straight away. What's going to be really intriguing is what the contracts say. How many players get big increases in salary and bonuses if they're playing European football? Because then you might find that yes, they might make an extra 25-30 million pound being in the Europa League. If the bonuses and wages go up by 60 million in totality, you're now making an even bigger loss, as an example. And I think Chelsea football fans have got to start looking closer at their club's finances. Net spend is the enemy of this, because net spend has made everybody think for years that if my net spend is good, we'll be okay. And then amortization, everyone starts to talk about it. Oh, it's fine because we spread it over 8 years. But you're ignoring all the... Man United are still doing this. We're still playing off players that left that club 3 or 4 years ago. It all accumulated, and that's what Sir Jim had just paid off. He paid about £200 million worth of old transfer debt off with the money that he injected into the football club, which means we're going to be able to spend more money this summer. But that can't happen at this point, because unless you get a new investor that comes in, and that's the only thing that's going to save Chelsea now, huge investment coming from somewhere else. And I think the Chelsea fans need to take a long, hard look at this. They have to go and read what it said in the Forest reports, because you're bang on, LB. That statement made, it was made as I think the Everton fans are probably onto something. It's made as another warning.
That's why I read it. Do you think that the Premier League and these guys who are charging people are basically putting this out as a warning to say, because obviously the Premier League can't release a statement saying, oh, by the way, if Chelsea breach, we think they might get kicked out of the league. Or if City breach, we think they might get kicked out of the league. Because obviously they're not just going to do that. So what they do is they sneak it in here, and then people like the people who discuss it on top.
They've got. I think what the Premier League's realizing is, I'm not saying they will beat you in court or won't beat you in court. We're not going to know until we start getting the real meat of that investigation come out. But I get a feeling that I think where you may win is they haven't punished anybody for this. And I think people in the past have probably made mistakes, and the Premier League, it's okay. But they're now showing their teeth, and they're deducting of points for not cooperating, as an example. And who knows, maybe you'll get a team like Chelsea that loses 100 million. But then when there's an internal investigation and an independent review into what's going on, and by the way, the government is now putting a legislation in place that's going to manage the football finance stuff. If they suddenly find, oh my God, look, they've siphoned some money here and they didn't give us this document and they doctored this and they hid that, and you've been cheating the system a little bit like other clubs have done, then you might find, well, we're not going to give you a 10-point deduction. We're going to expel you because you've not only breached the limit, but you've breached it by far more than you should have done, and you've covered it up by falsifying documentation. I think that's how that kind of reads to me. Almost, you might lose 1 million more than you're allowed to, but you cooperated. You've been helpful. You've not tried to cheat the system. You've just had a strategy that hasn't worked, and it's honest. You're going to lose 4 points. You've lost 2 million over, but actually you've lied about this document. You hid this. You didn't cooperate. You changed this. You lied about that. This sponsorship now it's dodgy, and we're looking into it. You're getting a 15. You're getting a 20-point deduction because the honesty isn't there. And I think there should be a lot of football clubs. By the way, I ain't sitting here not worried because I don't trust the Glazers as far as I can throw them. I would not be surprised if we have done stuff that's wrong because my owners are goddamn awful. So I'm not sitting here on an ivory tower going, oh, my club's fine, we'd never do this. I have no idea. But you will see me come down as I'd actually be harder on my club than anybody else's. And what I don't like seeing is fans. I know the natural reaction is to protect your club, but you're not. You're protecting the owners who are hurting your club. That for me is, yes, they own it on paper, but they're the stewards of your football club. They are damaging its legacy and its reputation. You should be fuming. And that's why I know that fans want to stick up for their clubs, but I can't. I'll be the other way. I'd be like, how dare you break the rules? How dare you misinform on this? Why is your strategy fouled? I'm going to be more focusing on my own club and our misgivings if we're in this situation. But listening to that, I know there'll be a lot of Chelsea fans that will turn around and say, it's nonsense, it's talk sport, it's an ex-City man who's trying to deflect onto them, and it's Simon Jordan doesn't know anything. I just think that's Chelsea fans genuinely burying their head in the sand. I really do.
And why have they then put this in the report as well? Why have they randomly included this about the fact that they might kick someone out of the league if the breach is major? For me, this is a warning. This is the letting us what's about to come. And the big question is, what do they consider major? Because they're not what people want. The people want like some list to say, oh, if you breach this, it's a 1 point. This is 2 points. This is 3 points. But as Terry kind of said, you're not going to get that because they look at everything as a whole. They look at, well, how did you arrive at this loss? Did you do anything at the time? Because this is what Everton had with their spending. The Premier League said in theirs that like they didn't really do anything during, like they signed Sigurdsson when they were already under pressure or something like that. Like, why did they do that? And so you can't really have like a guideline of this is 1 point, this is 2 points, this is 3 points. They look at it and then the independent people assign the points deduction based off of the merits of the case. But have you cooperated? How did you get there? How much is the loss? And if you want to appeal, you can. The question is, what do they consider major? Because if I was a Chelsea fan, I'd be trying to work that out. Because effectively, they're saying if you do a major breach, then in a severe sanction, we'll kick you out of the league. That's what they said.
Chelsea majorly breached. What the hell have City done if they're found guilty?
No, but obviously said that. We all know that if City have breached, bro, we all know we're getting kicked out of the league, man. Like,
yeah. If City are guilty of everything they've been accused of, I don't see how they stay in the league. Because
it's not even up for discussion because we all know that.
But Chelsea's one's interesting because they have also reported themselves at least twice for multiple financial irregularities from during the Roman era when FFP was in place. The Eto'o deal, there's I think the Willian deal, and there's a few others that they've reported themselves for, and then payments, for instance, that have gone to like agents of like Antonio Conte, but they haven't been paid via the club. It's been paid via external. And Chelsea themselves have reported this. Now, that tells you see another part of that report that you mentioned, LB, where it said that, Forest got in less trouble because they cooperated. So maybe Chelsea are looking at this saying, we're in the shitter because we haven't made Champions League football with this big investment. We almost need to start cooperating in every single which way, shape, and form. We know an independent commission. Again, when this independent body comes in from the government, this is going to be like the FCA in banking, where they're going to turn up at clubs' doors and say, we're going for all your accounts today. And clubs, where City have been able to, for instance, say, well, we're not, via their lawyers, we're not giving you access to all our finances. This legislation is essentially coming in to be able to turn around and say, no, we are coming in to look at what you're doing behind the scenes to make sure it's all legit. And I'm up for that because I don't care whether it's my team or your team. I don't want that kind of cheat. For me, I look at financial cheating in exactly the same way as I view sticking steroids into a player's leg, into a player. It's creating an unfair situation. And yeah, look, if Chelsea have lost £150 million, they've also breached rules in the past and historically through cheating the system, and they don't cooperate. There's a very big chance, according to this report, you just said at the LB, that they could be kicked out the league. For Chelsea fans just to sit down. Have you seen that meme where that guy's sitting in a cartoon where he's in a burning room and he says it's all okay? That's you right now. You should be knocking on the door of your club and demanding absolute answers. You've got to. You've got to be.
Absolutely. And like, let's be real. Like, taking it back even, the whole thing is a mess, in my opinion. The whole of this FFP, profit sustainability, is actually crud. And like, there's a lot of Arsenal fans who'll probably disagree with me here because they probably like it. Because obviously they're looking at Chelsea and Man City in this situation. But I actually think the whole thing's mad because it doesn't actually benefit any of the clubs below because they're all getting screwed by it. So how is anybody supposed to catch up with with Manchester City? Let's take Newcastle, for example, right? They haven't even really spent massive yet. They've got to sell players, apparently, now. This profit and sustainability, one window, and now they're talking about Bruno potentially going, Isak potentially going. Now, I don't think they will, by the way. I don't think they have to sell them. But how are they then going to have another massive window and another massive window? They're never going to catch Man City. Man City have built their squad. It's taken them 10 years. They've got their side. They're happy. Everybody else is trying to catch up with them, and they're not allowed to now because profit and sustainability has come in. And it weren't invented that wise anyway. That's strictly when Man City were doing it. Spend. Now it's coming in. Man City are laughing. They're like, no one's catching us then. All good. They just keep getting sold.
Can I ask a question, Dan? Do you think Man City have cheated?
I don't want to say yes or no, Tel, because I need to see more evidence. I just keep seeing 115. I mean, from my thing, I will say yeah. Okay, I'll say yes. The reason I'll say yes is because 115 is not 5. 115 is a lot. Is a big number as far as I'm concerned, right? So yeah, I think something's gone on there. I don't understand how they've made money in the COVID season. I don't get that. Maybe someone can give me a logical reason as to why Man City made a profit in COVID and everyone else made a big loss. Maybe somebody can give me an understanding of that, and I can look at it and go, fair play. That makes sense.
But that again that's just silly because I think Liverpool lost like £3 million and we made like a £9 million profit. That's not really a big difference. And people also love to talk about the fact that City's ground is empty all the time. Well, if that's the truth, if that's what you genuinely believe, then it would make sense that City are least impacted by empty stadiums.
No, the reason I asked you, Dan, is because if you believe City haven't cheated, then FFP doesn't stop anybody growing. It just can't, because they went from being tiny to the best team in the world over it took them 15 years to get to this point. But that's how long, and they did get 3 or 4 years without FFP, which probably helped kickstart them. I look at it I think FFP is important though, and I understand smaller clubs are being hit by it, but Chelsea look like they're going to be hit by it, and I think there's a few other big clubs that are on the way too.
Let's hope so. Let's hope they do. If they have cheated, everyone should.
The problem that you have with it is this: if you just look at Man City right now, a lot of Man City's deals, we saw Big Steve say this the other day on the overlap, and he's right. A lot of City's income comes from the owners' connections in the Middle East. Their wage bill is £490 million, and a lot of that is contracted for a 5-year period. Let's say tomorrow, don't need to give a reason because it will trigger too many people, but suddenly Sheikh Mansour doesn't want to or can't own Man City anymore, and him and all these connections are pulled away from that club. In my very humble opinion, I don't think multiple other mainstream brands, Nike, Apple, whoever it may be, are going to pump in the same amount of money to maintain that £800 million a year turnover, which can afford to pay the £490 million debt that they now have, which is the salary, which is contracted and owed. It's a debt to them. If they suddenly drop down to a £500 million a year income, a £400 million a year income, they can't afford to pay their wages. There is a huge risk then that Manchester City go out of business. And the reason why I believe in FFP but think it needs reform is that for every Sheikh Mansour who has been a good owner, for every Roman that's been a good owner, there's been so many billionaires that have come into this game, speak to QPR fans, Leyton Orient fans, Portsmouth fans, Rangers fans, you can keep going on, and millionaires that have come in and been awful and damaged football clubs. There's been far more worse multi-millionaire, billionaire owners than there's been really, really good ones. And I think that you have to get that balance right. I think allowing clubs to just lose more money all the time is going to encourage bad behavior, which if you up the limit to 300 million, it's going to put some clubs out of business. They're going to try to do it for the right reasons to win, but then they go out of business. And I think football has a responsibility. Sometimes you've got to protect people from themselves, if that makes sense. And I think you have to have a safety net. At the same time, I think the answer is very clear to a degree in this, is that if an owner wants to create a wage bill that's worth 500 million, they have to put a safety net in. And the safety net is if they leave for whatever reason, Man City's owner has to put £2.5 billion into an account somewhere that he can't touch ever, that covers those salaries if he was to leave for the remainder of their contracts. That way,
that's what all clubs should have to do. I've said this for years. Money in an escrow account. You've got to give them 10 years to do it because they're not going to be able to do it overnight. And people will moan and say, oh, well, it's easy for City and Newcastle to do it because they can deposit the money in overnight. Well, you can't have your cake and eat it, right? No one's going to agree to a perfect system. If you're being serious and you want to protect clubs, then this is the only way to go. And yes, clubs with mega rich owners will benefit. However, the clubs with the mega rich owners, typically, are the better clubs. So they have to put more money in because their operating expenses are higher. That's how it should be done. Now, I know Arsenal fans will probably be butthurt about that because they'll go, oh, well, that might hurt us because we don't have, our owners don't have as much as you guys. Well, first of all, you've got to give them a long time. This can't happen overnight. We can't go, oh, Sheikh Mansour, sorry, mate, you got to drop 500 million in account by tomorrow morning. You've got to give them time. I'd give them a decade because then what I would do on that as well, Terry, I'd let everybody know. This is being done for the protection of the fans. This is one of the problems with FFP. Not everyone agrees that this is truly to protect clubs going bust. People don't think that. Some people do, some people don't. If we do this, everyone will know this is to benefit the club because the money doesn't get touched unless your owner decides to not put money in. And then what you say to the fans, you say, if after 10 years, right, because we're giving you a long time to do this. And by the way, 10 years goes like that. Yeah, you had Ferguson 10 years ago. Look how quick that's gone. If your club doesn't have the money in the account after 10 years, we are hitting you with the most severe penalties. You will be relegated. You will be and then no one could blame. Like Everton fans would then not blame the Premier League. Forest fans would not blame the Premier League. They blame the club because they've had a decade. But that for me is the only way because you can't stop. You cannot. For me, you can't stop an owner putting money into the club. If the owner wants to spend £1 billion on the club, fine. Just protect the club while you do it.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. And then the thing, the argument to that would be, and I'm not against that because Man United are rich. The argument then would be is you genuinely would then stop the smaller, less wealthy clubs from being able to grow unless somebody bought them who had billions of pounds that they could pump in. And there's not that many people with that kind of money in the world. It's like 0.1% of the population have that amount of money. And how many actually want to own football clubs? Although there's a lot of billionaires, a lot of it isn't actual cash they can pump in. The only other option is to have something that's more salary capped and transfer capped, and maybe the higher you finish in the league, the bigger that cap grows. The lower you finish, the lower that cap is, as an example. That way you can't spend. I mean, I quite like what they're doing now. The way we're moving to the new FFP in Europe is great because it's based on you can't spend on players, salaries, transfers more than 70% of your turnover. I quite like that as an example. An owner can still pump money into their football club to a certain degree, but it's about you can't spend more than X amount of your, and that's how clubs typically work internally. They set a limit of 75% of their turnover that gets spent on players, which is why I don't do the net spend thing. So I think it can do with reform, but there needs to be some type of safety net because my personal feeling is if you just let owners come in and do what they want, we'd have seen a lot more businesses and football clubs in the last 10 years be wiped off the face of the earth. Some of it, the guy that took over Leighton Orient, my brother's team, he came in and sold them a dream. And just 18 months in was like, nah, I ain't doing this anymore. And then just ruined them and nearly put them out of business. And I think we have to protect against that. But in terms of Chelsea and this situation, I think their fans have got to start knocking on the door of their football club because it does not look good, Bav. What does look good is my new channel, The Squad. Go and get subscribed to it now. Scan the QR code you can see on the screen right there. Go and get yourself subbed up to that one. We've got some super chats here before we go on to the next question about Sauce. Our stadium might be why Arsenal don't get charged. Well, there's no sign that Arsenal being charged as of right now. Arsenal look like they're absolutely fine.
Here's a question for you, just a quick one. Do you think do you think ticket income should be used as part of your FFP calculation? Because if you do that, all you're doing is incentivizing clubs to raise ticket prices.
That's true.
Now I know, like United fans might say, "Oh yeah, but we've got a bigger stadium, so yes, because it'll benefit them." But like, surely as a moral human being, we would all say, "Well, no, that's just because you have a bigger stadium. We don't want that because all that does is increase. They were just incentivized to increase the tickets."
It's such a hard one. Again, I only have the insight to this. My brother supports a team in League One. Smaller clubs want Premier League clubs to up their prices. They don't want them lower because that's what attracts fans to the Championship, the League One, the League Two teams when they're £20 a ticket. If suddenly Arsenal were like £25 a ticket to get in, people would be people then go, "I'm paying 20 quid to go and to watch Leyton Orient." If Orient had to drop their prices down to a £5, they'd go bankrupt. The problem with the system is that you've already gone past the point of no return. Does that make sense? It's hard now to start lowering those prices, but I do get where you're coming from. Or I think what clubs should offer, and again, maybe you could do this, is I think people that have had season tickets for a long period of time, so you've had it for over 10 years or over 20 years, it should be free. As an example, I think it should be given to you as like a reward thing. And then maybe you can write that off of FFP as an example. They'll still spend money on Coke and burgers and programs at the club. But I think that they should do that because the TV money is so high now. We should be giving back to fans. But we know they won't do it because it's all about the Benjamins, isn't it? All our clubs are like that, really. Sorry, I just joined the show. So many questions, might be late. But for each of you guys, what's the preferred formation and starting 11 for England?
Go on, Dan. Run through it rapid, and we'll just tell you whether we agree or disagree.
Yeah, no worries. Pickford in goal, I think, because I can't really pick another goalkeeper at the moment. Not playing. Trent, I would go with. I still think he's good enough as a right back. At left back, if he's fit, I'd go with Luke Shaw, but because I think we're struggling, to be honest, at left backs. I would probably go with John Stones and Mark Guehi if he is fit. I quite like him. Branthwaite, to be fair, probably deserves a shout. He's been phenomenal. I wouldn't put Maguire in there personally. And then I'd have Rice, Bellingham, and Maddison. And then I'd have Saka, Foden, and Kane.
Okay, I disagree with the right back. I play Kyle Walker. I think in international knockout football, you need someone who's better defensively. I'd also play Maguire instead of Mark Guehi. And I would play... Part of me just wants to throw Mainoo in there, you know. Honestly, I don't know, but yeah, I'm not sure about Maddison in the starting 11. But yeah, I would play. I disagree. I'd play Walker. I'd play Maguire.
I'd put Maguire in the team. I think he's been phenomenal for England overall, barring a couple of games. I would really like to see Mainoo, Rice, Bellingham, and just see how that kind of works. Foden on the left, Saka right, Kane through the middle. I would go with Kyle Walker. Left back's a difficult one. I'm actually just trying to look at the squad now because, I mean, you're probably going to throw Chilwell in because he's like a natural left back. Is he even in the squad?
Are we talking about for the next game here or for the Euros?
I'm just thinking.
Generally speaking, it's just like Euros, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say Euros because I don't think Gay's gone. But that's what I do. I mean, centre back for me, pick who you want. I know.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the centre backs that are there. Maguire and John Stones to me. Kyle Walker, I'd probably pick Ben Chilwell to be our left back. In goal, it would be. I mean, in goal it would be Pickford. Even though I do think Aaron Ramsdale's better, but Pickford doesn't do much wrong for England. It's one of those weird ones where I don't think he's better. But for England, he always has been. So that's what I do. But you think about this England midfield, right? Bellingham, Maddison, Gallagher, Henderson, Declan Rice, Mainoo. Like it depends on what you want, but Mainoo can play in that. Like Gallagher and Henderson are not better than Mainoo, in my personal opinion. They're just not on the ball anyway. They're just not. They've got more experience, but there we go. And what's your most iconic England moment? Gaza, Scotland, probably for me. Still,
straight first one that come to my head was Gaza against Scotland.
And the second one would be Beckham's free kick against Greece.
Yeah,
Saka missing a penalty.
Fuck off. Arsenal hate is real.
There you go, Terry. That's a clip.
By the way, is Livramento English? Does he play for England?
Yeah, he's English, isn't he?
Oh, he's
Yeah,
English. I didn't know. I mean, he sounds very Italian, so I thought he was Italian. I didn't know he's English. There we go. I learned something new. Courtois suffered a MCL rupture in training. Damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
Damn.
That's a big
That
miss.
is massive. If City get found guilty, it will be like Juve a couple of years ago. They'll be gone for a season and then back with a vengeance.
Only one season, hopefully a few.
It depends on what happens, doesn't it? Because again, it's so hard to speculate. Now, it turns out that all their sponsors are dodgy. They're not going to be able to keep those sponsors, so it all changes. But yeah, we'll see what happens with it. It's such a hard one to know because we don't know the ins and outs. Dan is spot on. Plus, you need to add the fact that other clubs with EPLs would not want to easily pay huge exaggerated amounts for average players from Chelsea. I agree. Southgate, number one choice for Sir Jim. Bermuda Guna, trust. I know you're from Bermuda, so I'm going to let you off. The Daily Star is not a newspaper we trust here, my friend. It is not a newspaper we trust. Kenny here says, Mainoo, Rice, Bellingham, Foden, Saka, Kane. I wonder what England will do to win nothing with this amazing batch of talent this time. When you read that off, it's ridiculous, isn't it? When you say it out loud. It gives me goosebumps. This year from Minutes, he says, when can we expect some content from the squad? That's to me. Soon. It's on the way, trust me. Ward-Prowse deserves a call-up since last season. Yeah, I think he's been overlooked too many times, I agree. Compete by spending money more wisely. I think that's a very, very, very
good point. Yeah.
Oh, Livramento was born in Scotland. He could play for England or Scotland. I didn't know he was born here. I genuinely assumed he was Italian. Got that wrong. So LB, cheating pays then. LB's not said that at all. What is this?
I feel like people think that I'm saying like loads of defensive stuff. I'm so open with like stuff like this. Like before, when we speak about City, I literally say City are guilty. We're getting relegated, lads. And then people just hear City are not guilty. We're definitely not guilty. It's just like people just hear what they want to hear, man.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. It's crazy. I love how if Arsenal win the league by 1 point or goal difference, the best team in the league will not have won. Well, this is what this title claim about Arsenal. So this is what Michael Owen said. Let's take a listen.
The analogy that we've always been brought up thinking is the best team always wins the Premier. The best team always wins the league. We always get told it. Well, if somebody wins it this year on goal different or by 1 point, are we saying that they're the best team? Like, who are the best team? It doesn't. I don't necessarily think the best team are going to win it this year. It might.
Who do you think the best team are?
I think the best team are Manchester City, but I don't. They
performance-wise.
I just think they're the best team.
Do you mean the best team to watch? To watch, or the best team because they just got the players and everything in performance? Are you saying that?
Well, I think the most exciting team to watch are probably Liverpool. But I think the best team, I mean, they've proven it for years and years now. I think it's Manchester City. But it's not necessarily going to be the best team that will win the league. It might be Arsenal. It might be Lou. It
might be Arsenal. I've never heard this before. I've never heard a team that would win the league isn't the best team in the league that year. Ever. I've never... And I know he even says it. He goes, that's what we always think. 130 years, and we're now changing what winning the league means.
Go on, Dan.
No, this guy, man. I mean, like, look, this is the thing with Michael Owen. In the times I don't listen to him often because I think he's a wally, if I'm honest. But when you do actually listen to the stuff that he sort of says, you understand what he's trying to say, but he's so terrible at saying it that he can't believe he's actually still got a job somewhere, right? What I think he's trying to say I think he's trying to say, we all know Manchester City and what they do. And if Liverpool and Arsenal were to win it, you'd probably say, if you added up their players, they're probably not as good as Manchester City, but they've won it. What they then need to say is actually they deserve to win it. Because whoever wins the league deserves to win it. Don't win it by luck. Don't look at it and go, wasn't even that good of a side. Now, I brought something up last night on this, on my channel with LB and the lads, and I said about Liverpool, if they actually do win it, I will look at that Liverpool side and go, do you know what? Fair play to them. But I've seen better Liverpool sides that haven't won stuff. So I think that's what he's trying to say. But my God, he's put it really badly. And let me tell you some of the other things this guy said, because I've got them up here. It's a good run. It's a poor run, if you know what I mean. Footballers these days often use their feet. This guy looks like a footballer. What a shot that is. Completely unstoppable. Keeper does need to do better for me, though. He's elbowed him in the head, this lad, but there's nothing in it for me. That would have been a goal if it had gone inside the post. Whichever team scores more goals usually wins the game. Fantastic penalty, that, but he'll be gutted that it went wide. It's hit the facial part of his head there. Do you mean his face? What a shot. Completely unstoppable. Keeper's got to do better for me. When they don't score, they hardly ever win. And then my favourite one, where is it? This shot is impossible to do. I saw Yaya Toure do it once. Just a few there from this guy who is a clown, who is a wally. The guy is an absolute buffoon. I cannot believe he's still being given a spot to talk. And you could see as soon as people question him, he's thinking, "What have I said here? What have I doing?" Right, he's he's scratching his head, going, "So what do you mean then? What's?" You can see he's struggling with it. It's just absolutely mad to me.
I know. I agree with you, Dan. I kind of get what he's saying, but he's just absolutely butchered it. And yeah, at the end of the day, whoever wins the league is the best team in the league. That's why we never say about the Champions League. That no one ever says if you win the Champions League, like you are the best team in Europe, like definitely 100%. Like you'll use that terminology to a certain degree if you win the Champions League, but like people can still argue and say, well, actually no, like there's other teams that are better. You know what I mean? So, but with the league in a 38 game shootout, like the best team wins it. That's just how it works.
Facts.
Yeah, it's my view on it is I've seen a lot of Liverpool people though in the last few days that have come on the show. So Paddy did it last night on Top Six, and I think Michael Owen's doing it a little bit, and Carragher's kind of alluded to it. They are really worried about Arsenal winning it. There is a fear there of Arsenal winning it because, and I get it by the way, because I did it at the beginning of the show. I worry about my team's legacy. So that dictates who I want to win things far more than anything else. And they are genuinely worried. So they made this point, Liverpool fans on the show last night, that what Klopp's done is amazing because he's beaten a cheating, financially doping superpower to a league title. He's missed out narrowly a couple of times and he's beaten them to a title. That's how amazing this Klopp team is. So we threw out, well, imagine Arteta wins the league then. He's beaten that same cheating superpower, in your words, and your amazing Klopp. Does it not make his achievement even better? And you see the cogs going in the head. There is a Liverpool approach. So I think that Michael Owen has tried to do the thing, which is Arsenal will be the best team this season, but I still think City are a better team overall. And I don't think that's an unfair statement.
No, exactly that. Yeah.
But I think what he's doing it is under that veil of even if Arsenal win it, it's more so because the better teams had poor seasons to try and discredit it, because this guy, ever since he won that league title with Man United, he has been trying to suck off the Liverpool fan base to get back in with them the whole goddamn time. And I just laughed my head off when I saw it. I just thought to myself, how can we undo 130 plus years of history and just say suddenly that, I mean, because you could just apply that logic whenever you want and say, well, City are winning everything now, but Barca are not as good as they used to be, and this team isn't there. So I'm just going to say City are winning it, but not really the best, because the best team's just got old. I mean, how far do you stretch that logic? It's crazy to me. Absolutely crazy.
What's mad, though, right, is why we rattle people so much. I just don't get it, man.
Yeah, but they also rattle you.
Get it, man.
It's a two-way street, Dan. It's a two-way street.
What do you mean?
They rattle you.
Who do?
Just
the media.
People. Yeah, the media, like people who like you say you rattle them, they also rattle you. It is a two-way street.
But the thing is, LB, what I don't get, because you're right, people rattle each other, but I understand why people. So I can't understand why Arsenal rattle everybody. I would if we were like Man United of the 90s, winning everything. You know, we're a club that haven't won a Premier League title for 20 years, you know. We don't win everything. So why the hell are people getting so rattled? Just let us do what we want. Because apparently we're no good. We're not got everything. Anytime someone's mentioned he's better than Saka, I've had that 4 or 5 times this year already.
It's because Arsenal fans like to they're very passionate about defending the football club. So if you want to sort of like bait a fan you know what I mean? I'm going to think, right, which fan base can I rattle today?
Yeah.
I need to do a video on YouTube. Who can I piss off? I'm thinking Arsenal
It's
fans.
going to be an Arsenal fan.
It's going to be, and you guys should take that as a bit of a compliment, man, because like that's just the way you defend your football club. And there's a lot of Arsenal fans out there, so yeah, it's a two-way street.
I see it a little bit like this, like what LB said. All these people, because all these people say I'm not bothered about City. They go on about 115. They talk every time City are mentioned, they're trending, right? I care about City. I care about what City are doing, so I talk about them. If I didn't care, I wouldn't talk about them. People say they're not. When I say like scared of Arsenal, I still think to this day people misunderstand what I meant, and I think they do it deliberately. I don't mean literally grown men. Oh my God, we're playing Arsenal today. I can't breathe. I don't mean it in that way. They're scared of Arsenal becoming successful because of what it represents. And everyone sees it differently. You've got Liverpool who look at it. The only ones who are not, by the way, are Man City. And I've always said that. I don't think City fans really are. There was a time when I think there's a newspaper report come out that says Pep's going to ban any more sales to Arsenal. And I did a bit of a video going, Pep's scared of Arsenal. A bit of a joke. But Liverpool fans are worried that if Arteta wins the Premier League this year and then maybe retains it, he's got a bigger Premier League legacy than Klopp. Man United and Chelsea, look where we are right now. We are fearful that the team that was, no matter how bad things were 2 years plus ago, Arsenal were always the whipping boy. It didn't matter what happened, they were always the banter club. They could now leave us in that firing line. Spurs as an example. And then you've got other clubs. So I do think that where I talk about fearfulness or scared of them is, damn, if they actually achieve something and they look good enough like they could do it, where does that leave me and my team? Because we can't banter you as much anymore. And it's why a lot of people are, and you know this is true, because there are Man United, in my opinion, because there are Man United fans that would rather see Liverpool City win the league and do a 4-peat or match our titles than go, I can't handle Arsenal fans celebrating. That tells me you're scared of seeing Arsenal fans.
Hilarious, man.
You're scared of Arsenal fans celebrating more than City achieving almost an unattainable piece of history that hurts our club. And people tell me I'm mad for saying it. It's there. I see it. And if you didn't really care about Arsenal, if they were a footnote in the game, you wouldn't. You would. And I tweeted saying today, and people are like, well, how are people going to be triggered by this? So many people are going to be triggered that Bukayo Saka has brought out peri Saka sauce at Nando's. They're going to be. People will be triggered by that. I mean, his face being on a bottle could go upside down later on this season. I'm just going to say that. It could go upside down. Yeah. But people like no one will be triggered by this. Of course I'll be triggered by it. Of course I'll be triggered by it.
We're massively relevant again, man, and it's great. It's great to see. Because you're right, we were the ones to laugh at not long ago. Now it's Chelsea and United, which is great. Spurs have always been fun to laugh at, to be fair. And it's great to see us back up there being relevant again, man. And I have never seen. And I will see it again. People will ring each other. Where are you watching the Champions League? I'm watching the Champions League, mate. I've got to do a hate along at home. Arsenal are playing. I've never seen so many hate alongs in my life. It's brilliant. I love it. And so many people crying after it. I've wasted 4 hours because they beat Porto. It's so ruined my night. I love it, man. It's just like, get in there, man. We must be doing something right. Anybody I speak about playing well, better than Saka, isn't he? Better than Saka, Dan. I don't know. Maybe he's playing better than Saka at the moment. If you want, yeah, he is much better than Saka. And they really like to get rattled. And I think, wow, you're obsessed with Saka, man. Just let this kid play football. He's 22. He's around for a long time, man. You got 10 years of this. Like, let it go. Listen. It's good. Hopefully it continues because it means we're doing something right. But yeah, man, rattling so many people on. It's mad. It's like extreme. It's as if we go and win stuff every single year. I thought people would still be laughing, going, calm down. You ain't won a Premier League for 20 years. You ain't won a European trophy for 30 years. And they're all losing their heads. Christ, we haven't done anything yet. Calm down. Mad. Absolutely mad. But I'm here for it.
Yeah, it's so funny as well because you see, I understand the double standards in banter and everything else, but all I heard for 2 weeks was Arsenal can't win the Champions League because they haven't built up enough experience in it. And at the same time, people are saying Liverpool, Man United and Spurs fans, you don't want to be in the Champions League because you haven't got the experience to win it. It's like, it's just all of it stems from the worry and fear that one of your rivals might improve and get better and leave you behind. And I understand it because I am fearful of Liverpool matching the amount of league titles we've got. I am fearful. I am scared genuinely of City doing a back-to-back treble. When I said 18 months ago that I was scared of Arsenal, it's because I saw a team that I knew was going to leave Man United behind. I saw a team and went, they're going to make my team look crap from a perspective point of view. And that worries me because I want my team to be seen as the best. And I just don't know why most people can't be. And again, I understand why City fans wouldn't be, because you're at the top of the pile. When Man United had Fergie, we were at the top. No one worried me. Not one team in England did I worry about for more than a day. Do you know what I mean? On the match day, I was nervous. But no, Arsenal stuff. I mean, I'm just seeing some of the... One Spurs fan said this about Saka's bot thing. Why... Tell me if you guys get this, or maybe I'm misreading it. Maybe I don't understand. Maybe I'm too old. Where is it? Where is it? There it is. So I said this is going to trigger a lot of people. This is what someone said. I just find it so funny that it's come in a bottle. Like everyone's like, what do you mean? Well, it's a bit extra in it, putting the sauce in a bottle. What else do you fucking put sauce in? I don't know. Like on things like that, it's like that's all they had to say. It's like, don't say anything, bruv. Don't say anything. It's weird. Honestly, I can't understand people's. I can't get it. I don't know. Maybe it's hard for you to relate, Lewis, because you're at the top of the mountain. I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy. Dan, I know you got to shoot, mate. I've got a few more super chats to crack out, mate. But I'll catch up with you soon, brother. Top man. Cheers, mate. Bye.
Take it easy, man.
Top man. We'll go to the old school setting for the last little bit here of 2 cameras. There we go. It works. It works. Oh, I'm on the wrong side. I'm never on that side. It makes me feel out of sync. Not reading that comment out. Terry, I like you for 2 main reasons. You aren't biased and you give facts to justify your claims. If Man United is terrible, you will not praise it just because it's your team. I mean, I don't know. Thanks. It's just normal for me. Don is rattled by Arsenal. Don is rattled by everything that isn't Chelsea are amazing. He's rattled by everything.
Yeah, but he's got a it's different with Chelsea, isn't it? Because Chelsea have got this whole London.
Yes.
Who's the biggest club in London? And of course, Chelsea are, I think, 6 off about 4 to 6 league titles behind Arsenal. But of course, they do have 2 Champions Leagues. So, you know, there's a lot of people that think Chelsea are a bigger club than Arsenal because whilst they've got less league titles, they do have 2 Champions League under the belt. And obviously, most people put Champions League as higher weight. But if Arsenal was to win another league title or to win a Champions League,
changes everything.
It changes everything. It does.
And especially with Chelsea being where they are in the league, because the one thing you could say as an Arsenal fan is my team, yes, they had 2 years at 8th. Didn't have 2 years in the bottom half. Like that's
true,
different.
True.
That's different. And if they get this big points deduction, it's going to be 3 years there. It's going to be 3 years there. Liverpool lost less games than Arsenal and City, but written off. No one's written off.
I don't think it was. I literally had Liverpool, and I might still do, as the favourites.
I've got Liverpool's favourites right now.
Yeah.
We'll wait and see after the City game against Arsenal. That might change things, but yeah, I've got Liverpool's favourites right now. If you want your club to win trophies, smash the like button. You should be smashing it anyway, but thank you. Thank you, Luke Skywalker, for asking people to smash the like button. Banter on the pitch as well, man like Deo. Thank you as well, brother. Livramento's dad is Portuguese, hence the name. I don't know. Livramento sounds Italian to me, but it's Portuguese. There we go. But he's English. I'm happy about it. I think he's great. Love how already done that super chat there. Yeah, it's Michael Owen is on a madness there. Evening from India. I have to give credit to football fans overseas watching football, struggling watching your stream. I mean, I hope you mean you struggle to get time to watch it as opposed to it's a struggle to watch.
He's either just roasted the hell out of us, Terry, yeah? or like he's giving us massive praise because he's tuning in at a mad time to watch us talk about football.
He's been a member for 48 months, so I'm going to say he's praising us, and he's tuning in at a mad time because you wouldn't. If you're a member for 48 months and you don't like it, you got a problem. Do you know what I mean? Like you got.
I don't think I've ever seen a member longer than 48 months. That's a loyal viewer.
On this, let me just check now. Let me go on some of my members' pages. We've got some new stuff coming for them soon as well. But let me go to my members. What's the longest people that I've had on here? I think I've got some longer than that, to be fair. Let's get everybody up. Show all members. Time. There's 3 that are longer. Three that are longer. You've got Pricey. I don't know if you're watching Pricey. Me, I'm a member of my own channel, and man like Josh Waring, all on 48 months. But yeah, this guy's been a member since we've been doing it. So, you know, the better part of 4 years, which is just crazy. So,
how many people? Oh, I don't know if you answered. I was going to say how many people you got on 48, but would you want to tell us that?
I'll give everyone that's on 45 and above 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 1, 2, 4, 33.
Loyal, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely big up. There's loads of loyal people out there, and we've got a lot of great
viewers.
No, I absolutely love it, man. I really appreciate the support. That's why I work so hard every day, partly to give you guys back and everything else. And big yourself up to international fans. I know international fans get a bad reputation sometimes. They get a lot of stick sometimes, and I never understand it. The irony is so many of our clubs bask in the glory that the modern day finances give us, and so much of that now comes, I mean, a big part of it is match going, but a lot of it is commercial and a lot of it is TV, and so much of that stems through international fans. You're a very important part to football as well. Oral Campbell here, look at that, 30 just came through, 37 months there we go. Got another one here, just a renewal just came through, 20 months there. Go on, my friend. I like that. And yeah, international fans are important, and I think that just because you haven't maybe been to the UK or stepped foot inside a stadium, I don't think it means you're any less passionate about your club.
Yeah,
it's a different feeling. It's a different feeling, but you still love your football club in an absolutely massive way. So yeah,
don't let anyone tell you like you're not a real fan of just because you don't live in the UK or whatever, or you're not from the area, right? Because that's all chat shit. Yeah. At the end of the day, you're waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning, or like even just tuning in. Right, and then they'll say, "Oh well, how did you support City or how did you support Man United?" Like it's none of their business, man. Do you know what I mean? So like, you just keep doing you, yeah, and ignore these people, mate. Don't just if people try to get onto you on Twitter, you know what I mean, and like calling you out for supporting this club, and you're not even from there, and they try to get onto you from wherever. Just ignore these people, man. Because honestly, like Terry says, like, and I actually really enjoy hearing like other people's stories about how they like follow. Like City, like when I do a stream on my channel, I'm speaking to someone from America or something. I'm like, "Oh, tell me your story about how you started supporting City." And I'm sure you've had the same conversations with United fans, but like, it's not always like they're the best team. Like sometimes you're going to get that. Sometimes you get like really interesting stories about.
Of course,
it's good, man.
And the reason I say it's different is I don't support a team from the town or city I'm from, and I love Man United from being a very young kid. 1988, I started supporting them. Love them. When I moved and lived in Manchester, it was a different feeling. Being around people that were born and bred. I used to go to the games with a guy called Barry, whose grandfather helped build the stadium. So it was a different, not feeling, but a different ethos and different stories because it was a local thing. But then going to games as regularly as I did for a good decade plus, every game, people from Ireland, there's this one guy that used to fly over every single game from Norway. Every single home game. Now, for me, that is to a degree more dedication than walking 5 minutes from down the road, because that's a long ass round trip every other week. It's crazy. So for me, I totally agree. I don't think you're any less of a fan just because you haven't been to the stadium. I don't think you're any less of a fan because you don't have an English passport. I don't think you're any less of a fan because you live in Australia or India or Canada. I think it's all about the passion you show, the interest you show, and your knowledge. And a lot of people will use you being international as a way to try and beat you in an argument without actually having an argument with you. They won't challenge your points. They won't debunk your points. They'll just say, you've never been to the stadium. You don't know what you're talking about. I get it sometimes when it comes away from being a fan. You get it with you're just sucking off Arsenal. Well, that's not an argument to the point I made, is it? You don't beat me by just saying you're sucking off Arsenal. You've got to have an argument here. Insulting people, slagging people off, making a bit of a joke and banter, all that is saying is, damn, I've lost the argument. I've got no way out, so I'm going to insult you. So big up all the international fans watching and everybody around the world. I appreciate it anyway. As you know, Football Territory got a big percentage. I think something like 45% of our audience is not based in the UK. So I am forever grateful for that 110%. This year says, did you see Haaland and Courtois' injury news?
Yeah, Haaland apparently is fine. He's just come out that he's fine, but Courtois is like dusted.
Courtois done. There's a lot. There's a few Liverpool players, a few Arsenal players, and definitely a few City players that are all injured in the instant. This is just getting ready for what's going to be an amazing run-in. It really, really is. It's going to be an amazing run-in. I can't wait for it, mate. But look, I want to thank everybody that has tuned into the show today. Please make sure you hit the like button before you leave and you subscribe. LB, always a pleasure to speak. Obviously, Dan's just departed us, not departed, a few moments ago. Make sure you scan that QR code you can see on the screen and check out my new channel, The Squad. Until next time, take care, goodbye, God bless, and I'll see you all again soon. Peace.